Good morning. This is Sunday, the 28th of June, 2026. And the question is, why did God allow something to happen that, according to his own laws, was absolutely forbidden? And of course, I'm referring to the visit of Saul, king of Israel, to the witch of Endor. God said to Israel in Deuteronomy 18, verse 10, there shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or one who practices witchcraft, or a soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. Then he says in Leviticus 19, verse 31, give no regard to mediums and familiar spirits. Do not seek after them. Do not be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. And Leviticus 20 verse 6, he says, the person who turns to mediums and familiar spirits to prostitute himself with them, I will set my face against that person and cut him off from his people. Saul himself expelled all the mediums and sorcerers from Israel because the law of God commanded it. We see that in 1 Samuel 28 verse 3. And Saul had put the mediums and the spiritists out of the land. But King Saul himself, desperate, terrified, completely abandoned by God, seeks out the medium, a woman known as the witch of Endor, and asks her to summon the Lord prophet Samuel, who had died some time before that. Samuel appears, he speaks, he prophesies, and what he says is fulfilled to the letter. Could this at all be possible? Was it really Samuel who appeared? Was it truly God who did something that he himself forbids? To understand this, we need to understand who Samuel was and why his death was so devastating to Israel. Samuel was not just another prophet of Israel. He was the last of the judges. He was the anointer of kings. He was the voice of God on earth for decades. He heard the voice of God since he was a little boy. He was the bridge between the old Israel of the judges or the seers and the new Israel, the Israel of the kings. He anointed Saul as king, and he secretly anointed David as king, knowing that the future of Israel was not in the man the people chose for his appearance, but in the man God chose for his heart. Then Samuel died, and the Israelites gathered together and lamented for him and buried him in at his home in Ramah. The death of Samuel, recorded in 1 Samuel 25 verse 1, was not only the loss of a man, but it was the silencing of the prophetic voice in Israel. And that silence would be Saul's condemnation. Who was Saul at that moment in history? His story is recorded from 1 Samuel chapter 9. And verse 2 of chapter 9 says, and he had a choice and handsome son whose name was Saul, referring to Saul's father. There was not a more handsome person than he among the children of Israel. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. God chose the best, the enemy of the kings of the heathen nations around Israel. But alas, he disobeyed God in the battle against the Amalekites, sparing their king and the best of the spoils that God said must be destroyed. He was no longer the king anointed with the hope that he had been in the beginning. He was a broken man, abandoned by God, living in envy and fear. He tried to kill David various times. David, the anointed of God, he consulted the Lord as the Lord did not, and the Lord did not answer him. Heaven was closed to Saul, and this was the most terrifying situation of all. The silence of God was worse than the wrath of God. The Philistines were camped and ready to attack. The army of Israel was camped opposite them. And we read in 1 Samuel 28 verse 5, When Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And when Saul inquired of the Lord did not answer him, either by dreams or by Urim or by the prophets. This was not the fear of a warrior in battle. It was the fear of a man who knows he is completely alone. He lost God, he lost the prophet, and he knew he was about to lose everything else. At this point, Saul makes the most desperate decision of his life. He called his servants, 1 Samuel 28:7, "Find me a woman who is a medium, that I may go to her and inquire of her." And his servants said to him, "In fact, there is a woman who is a medium at Endor." So Saul disguised himself and put on other clothes. He goes by night to find her, accompanied by two of his men. This reminds me of Judas Iscariot when he went out from the Passover meal to betray Jesus. John 30 verse 30 says, "Having received a piece of bread, he then went out immediately, and it was night." Night is not only the absence of light, it is that which should not be seen of what is out of the divine order. Saul is doing something he knows is wrong, and that is why he goes by night, disguised. In asking the woman to conduct a seance for him, she answered, "You know that what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. But Saul assured her that no punishment shall come upon you for this thing." Then she asked Saul whom she must call up for him, and he said she must bring up Samuel. Samuel appeared, and it is evident that he was neither raised by the power of the devil or the incantations of the witch, for the appearance which took place at this time were such as she was wholly unacquainted with. She was terrified by what she saw, being so widely different from what she expected to see, and what's more, she immediately had a revelation that this was Saul who came to her. She told Saul what she saw. It was a spirit ascending out of the earth, an old man covered with a mantle. And Saul knew it was Samuel, verse 14 of 1 Samuel 28. And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed down. And then Samuel spoke to him, verse 15. "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" Saul answered, "I am deeply distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and God has departed from me and does not answer me any more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may reveal to me what I should do." And Samuel said, "Why then do you ask me, seeing the Lord has departed from you and has become your enemy? And the Lord has done for himself as he spoke by me, for the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David, because you did not obey the voice of the Lord, nor execute his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with you into the hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. The Lord will also deliver the army of Israel into the hand of the Philistines." All Israel was included in the sentence over Saul because of his disobedience against God, because they wanted a king. Israel wanted a king as the other heathen nations around them. And they did not want the seer, the prophet that God provided him. Was this really Samuel who appeared to Saul? That's a great question. God, in his absolute sovereignty, allowed the prophet Saul to manifest himself to fulfill a specific purpose, to pronounce the final judgment on Saul. It was not because the medium had that power, but because God permitted it as an extraordinary and unique act of His will. Everything Samuel said came out to the letter. If this was a demon or an illusion, it could not have been prophesied with such precision. People argue that it could not be Samuel, but a spirit that took on the appearance of Samuel, and that Satan, as an angel of light, can imitate, deceive, disguise himself, that the so-called prophecy was not divine revelation, but information that the enemy already knew. That's the problem with that. How can a demon know and prophesy something so precise, faithful to the will of God? Another argument is that everything was a psychological or a demonic illusion validated by Saul's state of terror and desperation. This argument has the problem because the text does not say that the woman did do the usual demonic activities or practices. It only says that Samuel appeared, and that he spoke, and that he prophesied. To understand this more fully, we must recognize that Sheol, the place of the dead, was not the Christian hell, nor the Christian heaven. It was a place where the souls of all the dead, the unrighteous in torment, and the righteous in Abraham's bosom, they were awaited for the day of the Lord. Sheol was understood as below, in the heart of the earth, and that is why the text says that Samuel comes up from or descends, sending out of the earth where their spirits were, according to Luke chapter 16. What happened here goes beyond any ordinary medium's practice. She screamed because she saw something she did not summon with her art, something that came not because she called it, but because God sovereignly permitted it. And note what Samuel says in verse 19 of 1 Samuel 28. And tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. What does this mean? Will Saul and his sons be with Samuel in Hades or in Sheol? Which one has two compartments according to Luke 16. The one where the souls of the unrighteous are in torment, and the other called Abraham's bosom, where the souls of the righteous are at rest and waiting. Could it be that Saul, despite of his sin, was not utterly forsaken? In 1 Chronicles 10 verse 13 we read, So Saul died for his unfaithfulness which he had committed against the Lord, because he did not keep the word of the Lord, and also because he consulted the medium for guidance. But he did not inquire of the Lord, therefore he killed him and turned the kingdom over to David, the son of Jesse. The deepest message of this piece of history is not about Saul. It's about the nature of sin and its irreversible consequences. The passage of the medium of Endor is, in essence, is a warning that God gives not only to Saul, but to everyone. When to turn away from God, when you disobey repeatedly, when you prefer to do your own will over the divine will of God, there comes a moment when heaven keeps silent. And the essence of this is recorded in 1 Samuel 15 verse 22. So Samuel said, Has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to eat than the fat of rams. For rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry, because you have rejected the word of the Lord. So I close, not because God is no longer there, but because God respects the freedom that you yourself has chosen. Make the right choice. In Jesus' name, God bless you. Amen.